Now, what is a review process and what happens when a manuscript is submitted to a journal? What happens behind the scene is very important for us to understand. Now, every journal has of a team of scholars who are actually the gatekeepers for that journal. So usually you will have one editor in chief and few associate editors. Who are the associate editors? So there is one, you can say, the chairman of the journal, who these are all academicians, and then you will have 4 or 5 scholars whose area of specialization is they have their own areas of specialization, and this team of associate editors and editor-in-chief, they are actually the gatekeepers for the journal. Every manuscript that is submitted to the journal goes to the editor-in-chief, and the editor-in-chief in turn may allocate that manuscript to an associate editor based on the scope of the manuscript, the and obviously the specialization of the associate editor. Now, when you submit a manuscript to a journal, you would have usually heard double blind review, right? Double blind review. Peer review is obviously, you have peer review means there are people who are your peers in academic world who are going to review your work. Double blind review means uh, yeah, I'll come to this diagram later. Double blind review means that you are blind to who is going to review the manuscript. That means you do not know. Obviously, you know the editor-in-chief because the name, and the associate editors because their names are listed on the journal webpage, but you don't really know who exactly is going to review your manuscript. Who is the associate editor to whom this manuscript goes, and the associate editor then takes a call whether he or she would want to send it out for review or not. The associate editor as well as the editor in chief read your manuscript, and they may decide that the quality of the paper is not worthy of being sent out for review at all. So they will write back to you and say that, well, sorry, we don't uh, uh, think that the paper has quality, and we are not willing to review it. We are not sending it out, and we are rejecting the manuscript. Now, this rejection is called as a desk reject. That means the paper was not even sent out for a review. It was rejected either by the editor-in-chief or the associate editor. That means the paper landed on the desk of the editor, and the editor has rejected your paper. So it's called as a desk reject. Now, the other thing that can happen is the associate editor or the editor in chief, they read your manuscript and they find that there is some uh, value in the idea that you are presenting. So they decide to send the paper out for review. So the paper now goes out to reviewers. Usually the paper is sent out to 2 reviewers. Now those who are those reviewers? The reviewers are could be anybody. Reviewers could be they are academicians. They could be placed any part of the world. So I could be reviewing for a journal which is getting published from the UK. I could be reviewing for a journal that could be published from the US. So your paper is sent out to 2 reviewers. Now, the double blind review means that you as an author, you will never know who were those people who actually reviewed your paper. So you are blind to the reviewer, and the reviewer will never know who was the author who has written this paper. That means Vishal Gupta will never come to know if a paper comes to me to review, I will never know who was the author of this paper. That is known only to the editor or the associate editor of the journal. And that is the logic of what we call as a double blind. Both the reviewer as well as the author are blind to the people who have either written the paper or who is reviewing the paper. Now, the reviewers take their time. Usually, a month is given to the reviewer. Reviewer reads the paper, looks at what the idea has been presented, and they give their feedback to the associate editor or the editor, whomsoever has sent the paper to them. They write back a review letter saying that these are the points that we like, these are the points that need work, and they are asked, each reviewer is asked to make a decision on the manuscript, whether they would like to reject the manuscript, whether they will like to accept the manuscript, whether they will like to have a major revision in the manuscript, or whether they will like a minor revision in the manuscript. So there are four decisions that we have as a reviewer. We have to decide: reject, accept, major revision, minor revision. And we are supposed to make a letter of recommendation. That means we write about the manuscript and we send it back to the associate editor. The associate editor will look at the review letters sent by the two reviewers, and based on their own reading of the manuscript and the review letters sent to them, they will take a call whether what do they want to do about the manuscript. So they can, again, based on the recommendations of the reviewers and their own reading, they can decide whether to accept, whether to reject, whether to call for a major revision, or whether to call for a minor revision. So this is, if they decide to reject, you will get a letter from the associate editor or the editor in chief saying that, sorry, we do not find the paper good enough. These are the review comments. They will send you the comments of the reviewers, and they will tell you that you should work on these comments, but for the time being, we are not willing to accept your manuscript to this journal.
So,
If they
sir, a small query here. So, is it possible to submit your paper again to the same journal, though they reject with comments, and then you work on those comments, and after some time you want to submit the paper again to the same journal?
You can do that. You can do that. But remember, your chances of publication would be very little in this.
Yeah. So
In
actually, this is
theoretically,
my experience that
theoretically, it is possible.
yeah. So actually, this is my experience. I got feedback, and then I worked on that. And then when I tried submitting that paper again, at the first hand, because earlier it is one A category journal. So earlier I got it went to the reviewer, and then it took all that process, and then reviewers sent comment, and then I worked on it, and then when after working I submitted it, then uh, on desk itself it was rejected
Yes.
at first hand.
Yes. Yes. So it is very difficult. There are some journals today that have started to do what they call as reject and resubmit. So one is revise and resubmit. So that is what I was going to tell, that if the associate editor decides that they would like to, they find some merit in the idea of the paper, but the paper needs revision, so they will send the paper back to you saying that you need to revise the paper and do these things. So that is called as a revision. It could be a major revision, it could be a minor revision. If it is a minor revision, then your paper is almost ready to be published. The associate editors, the editors find they are very, very positive and favorable to your manuscript, so it will get published because it's just a minor revision. If it is a
So
major,
one small thing. Uh, Once the paper has been sent to the editor and other things, after the review, whether they'll cross-check the background of us through Google Scholars or something about the uh, what do you call, number of papers published or something like
Yes, they are
historical things.
they are free to do anything because they know your identity,
Hmm.
right? Yeah. So they know you, they know who you are, from which part of the world you are submitting the paper.
Mm-hmm.
They
Right,
can check up anything, right? It is their call. Just like we can see anybody's profile,
right,
they
right.
can see that profile. Now, if it is
Will,
a
will,
major,
will that be an advantage or a disadvantage?
well, it depends. It depends. Yeah,
Right.
that depends on the mood of the reviewer, or sorry, the associate editor, and so it can be anything.
Okay, okay.
Okay, but don't bother because that is not in your control. Okay,
Correct, correct, correct.
so now if it is a major revision, you will get some feedback from the editor, and you will have to work on that. You will also be given a timeline. Usually 3 months is the time that people give to make a revision to the paper. You will have to work on the comments, work on the points that have been told to you, and resubmit the paper back to the journal. But it is a positive news nonetheless, because the editor has not rejected your paper. That means they find some merit in your paper and they are willing to take a chance on your paper. They are willing to give you another chance to revise and resubmit the paper. This is called as R&R, which is revise and resubmit. So this is the diagram that I have drawn, which is your research idea, your literature review, your theory building, your research question, data collection, analysis, writing, presentations at conferences, and then you have a submission process. Now, your submission process can lead you to a R&R, that is revise and resubmit, or here itself you can go to a rejection. After you revise and resubmit, again you can get a rejection. So you revise and resubmit to the journal, the associate editor or the editor will again send out the paper to you, to the reviewers. Usually it is sent out to the same reviewers who reviewed in the first cycle. The reviewers again read the paper. If they find they are convinced, they are happy about the revision, they will send back their comments to the associate editor saying we are happy with the revision, we are willing to accept, we recommend accept uh, uh, decision. Or they may come back to the to the associate editor and say that no, there are more revisions that are needed. So they will again give their decision as major revision. Or they may come back to the associate editor that no, we are not happy at all, and we now recommend a reject of this paper. So they can, so you, this reject can happen, right? Or you can again go back to this box of revise and resubmit. If things are favorable, maybe you will get an accept. If it is a reject, you have to again think about rewriting the manuscript, look at the research ideas. Maybe you will have to revise your theory, do a better job at it. You don't have to collect the data again, but you may have to rewrite the paper again and then go through this whole process again, right? So what is this is the kind of process that is followed. And the review processes can take, if you have just one revision, it can be anywhere between 3 to 6 months.
Hello.
If you undergo multiple revisions, it can be longer also. It can take longer also to publish. Yeah. Yes, Swati.
Question. Sir, how do we implement reviewers' comments which are extremely opposite? Like one says accept, another says, the other reviewer says reject. So as
Yeah.
an author, how do we take it forward?
A good question. You will never get to know what they have suggested. Okay.
Yes,
So
sir.
that decision only goes to the associate, the editor who is handling your manuscript. What you will get in the feedback is one reviewer says I am happy, the other one says no, you have to do this, you have to redo this, the first one says no, this is fine, the other one says this is not fine.
Yes, sir.
You get contrasting comments from the two reviewers. So in that case, you should write to the associate editor or the editor who will send you the letter for revise and resubmit. You should politely write to the edit to that person and say that can you please guide me, what should I do, because these two comments are opposite or contrasting. They are
Okay, sir.
right. So usually the editor will write to you suggesting what should be done. They are kind people. They will
Okay, sir.
suggest you what has to be done in this, in this situation. Okay?
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Uh, One thing that I would mention at this place is please remember that the job of editors, associate editors, reviewers, you all will also be reviewing in you all may be reviewing already, but or you may be reviewing in the future. Please remember that this is a voluntary job. Okay, all of us who are reviewing papers, we are we are not getting compensated for it. We don't get any monetary uh, benefit to review paper. This is a voluntary service that we offer to the academic world because we want to help uh, journals, we want to help people write better, and therefore we give feedback on manuscripts and try to help authors to develop their ideas better. So please understand that if you are submitting first draft of papers, you are submitting not a well developed manuscript. You are doing those people who are going to read your paper spend time out of their personal and professional lives, and they are going to read your paper. You are doing them a big disservice because you have not even done a proper job at writing or developing your manuscript, but you have submitted the paper to the journal. So you are wasting somebody else's time by submitting a half baked, not well cooked, not well developed manuscript. Right. So please take care of this fact, and please ensure that you are doing a sincere and a serious job in when you are writing your manuscripts. How do you choose journals? Fit with the topic, reputation, right? You now know journal rankings. You can identify journals which are good. You can identify every journal will on its homepage will have a section about aims and scope of the journal, what kind of papers, what kind of areas do they publish. It is a good idea if you are thinking of some journal, it is a good idea to read one or two issues, recent papers that are getting published, just to get a sense of the kind of quality of papers that this journal is publishing. It will give you a good sense as to whether your method, whether the way you have written is appropriate for this journal. So you can get a sense of whether the kind of work that you have done is suited for this journal or not, right? Uh, uh, the second thing is you should also, it is a good idea, one of the quick ways to identify what could be a good journal is to look at the reference list of your paper. Look at what are the journals you have cited, okay? And those,
Just a minute, I have a question, sir. Does the journals charge any money for the reviewing process? And
no,
number two, if the article is published, does the authors get any remuneration?
nobody gets any money.
Or neither no money has to be paid, and in converse, I will not get any money.
Usually, OBHR psychology journals, they do not charge. It is journal to journal dependent. About 90% of the journals do not charge any money for submissions. There are some journals, especially you will find these journals in accounting, finance areas, where they actually charge money for submission, right? There is a journal, you can write down the name. There is a good journal actually, which is called as Journal of Human Resources. Just type this name in Google resources. This is a journal that charges, I think, a submission fee of 50 or $100 per submission. Whether your paper gets rejected or accepted, it doesn't matter. Every time you submit a paper to this journal, it will charge uh, some amount. I think it is some, I don't remember the exact money. But as I said, most of the journals do not charge uh, money for submission. But neither the reviewer gets paid, nor the associate editor, nor the editor, nor the author when the paper is published. It is all a matter of, you can say, credibility. Once you get published in good journals, it is good for your career. It is good for your own development, because your, especially these days, your promotions, your confirmations, selections into institutes, they are all dependent on whether you are able to publish in uh, uh, journals. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So selecting the journal, I can only say that manage a portfolio of publications. So that means you should have 2-3 papers on which you may be working at a time. Maybe 2 is a good number to start with, where you can target one journal, which is one paper, which is a good paper, or which is a better quality paper, to a higher ranked journal, another one which you know is not a very strong paper, to a lower order journal, and so on. So so have a portfolio of publications, have 2-3 papers going at a time, so that all of your eggs are not in one basket. You are hedging your risk across journals you have, right? Uh, Always, if you are submitting to a journal, please cite some papers from that journal.
Sir, I'm sorry to interrupt. I didn't get the last point, sir.
Which one?
So right now you said that you.
What I was saying is have a portfolio of publications. That means have 2 or 3 papers on which you are working at a time, so that you can submit it to 2-3 journals. That means if you have 2 papers, you can submit them to 2 different journals. And so you have, you are, all your risk is not associated with just one paper. If that one paper, you have nothing to show for the work or the effort that you are doing. So it is a good idea to have 2 papers. You can think of 2 papers at a time that you can work upon. That is what I'm trying.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
Whenever you submit to a journal, please cite papers from that journal. Journals usually like that you quote some works that have been published in that specific journal. So for example, if you are submitting paper to personal review, please cite 1 or 2 studies that have been published in personal review. If you are submitting to IJHRM, please cite 1 or 2 studies that have been published in IJHRM. Select the right keywords. I think this is quite simple. selecting the reviewer action editor, well, there are some journals, few journals, that actually ask you for input as to whom should they assign as reviewer for your paper. But I never understand why do these journals do that. I don't even know whether the names that I suggest for as a reviewer, they submit the manuscript, they send out the manuscript to those reviewers or not. So if the journal asks you uh, suggest some reviewers for this paper, go ahead and suggest uh, names of those reviewers.
The reason might be they need to increase their database of reviews.
Yeah, maybe. Yes, maybe. Yeah. Okay, so this is just to make the mood a little lighter. You are this poor man with a manuscript in hand, and these are all the people on the way who have your goal is to get to the paper accepted board, but you have to cross all these hurdles on the way while you are trying to publish, right? So. Uh,
He has no hair already. I think he's pulled it out of frustration or something.
yes.
No, this is a very nice pictorial representation.
Yeah. Okay, so this is something I said, I have mentioned this already. You have a manuscript submission process, editorial review, that is the editors or the associate editors review your paper first. If they find it not acceptable, you get a desk reject and you have to you have to submit the paper to another journal. If they find it promising, they will send it out for peer review, okay? If the peer review says no again, then the paper is rejected and you will have to find another journal, maybe a lower tier journal or some other journal. If the peer review says yes, then they can give you two decisions, either minor revision or major revision. If it is a major revision, then it can go to second revision, third revision, and so on. And if in those revisions they say yes, you have a final acceptance. Minor revisions usually mean if you get a decision saying there is a minor revision needed, you should be almost certain that the paper is going to get accepted. If it gets rejected even after first, second, third rounds of revisions, bad luck. You have to try again, right? One of the things that I can only suggest is as a author, as somebody who has decided to inflict this misery and injury on himself or herself, and we have taken a call to become an academician. So we should also become thick-skinned. Rejections are going to be a part and parcel of our lives from here on. Okay, so don't get too dejected if you get rejection from a journal. It is okay. Learn from the feedback, learn from the comments that the reviewers have given to you, but don't believe that that is the end of the world. It is, things will be fine. If you get rejected, you will also get accepted. The important thing is to learn from the review process and to improve yourself every day, right? I can say this very confidently that my best learning about publishing has happened from the reviewer comments that I have got. Even though I have got rejected a lot of times, but I have learned immensely about publishing, about writing well from the reviewer comments that I have got. Remember, all of us who are reviewers, we don't want to reject papers. We want that we give comments that are developmental, that help authors to develop their work better. Okay, so all the reviewers, editors, associate editors, they are not bad people. They are just trying to push you to develop your work well. Okay, so take the feedback, take the revisions in that respect, that this is a learning process, this is a process of evolution. We all were bad when we started. It happens over time, we evolve over time, and we improve ourselves, right?
Sir, I have a question. Say I have submitted a article to a conference and that was published as a conference proceeding. Can I enrich it and submit it to another journal?
Well, usually, yes, journals don't mind papers getting published in conference proceedings. There are some journals, so usually journals don't mind, okay? But there may be some journals who are not okay with it, so you need to find out on the journal webpage. It will be written on the journal webpage whether conference proceedings are fine or not. Usually, uh, most of the journals are fine even if the paper has been published as a conference proceeding.
No, conference proceedings versus enriched and thereafter send it to another journal.
Yeah.
Enriched, the conference paper proceedings is to some extent more developed, and then I send it to another journal.
Yes.
Then I send it to a journal.
Yeah, so it is fine. You work on that conference paper and send it out to a journal. It is okay. And you should, usually, in my experience, conference proceedings do not publish full paper. They usually publish a shortened version of the paper. Uh, and if the conference proceeding is not really a valuable conference proceeding, that means it's not a very popular conference, it's not a very good conference, then I would rather recommend that you should not allow the paper to be published as a in a conference proceedings, because they will ask you whether you are okay in getting the paper published or not. If it is not a very reputed, very good conference, and you know that this conference proceeding publication is not going to be any worth, I would rather recommend don't allow the paper to be published. Why put it in public domain? Why put it up in a source, in a repository which is not worthy, right? So value your work and make a informed decision about it. Journals will be okay. Few journals may not be okay, but most of the journals don't have any problems.
Okay.
It might be the continuation of Devas's query. Like, I mean, whether the plagiarism will get affected, I think you'll be handling it tomorrow.
Yeah.
But whether this conferences and journal papers plagiarism will get affected.
No, it will not be. It will not be affected because you will. It is still your own paper. But what you will have to do is you will have to uh, uh, at places, if yeah, there are some journals who can object to it that you have a very high overlap. So at times you may have to paraphrase it, right?
Right.
You may have to, and that is why I mentioned that even if you want to get your paper published in a conference proceeding, don't allow full length paper to be published in that conference proceeding.
Okay. Okay.
So, for example, if your full paper is of 30 pages or 40 pages,
Hmm.
make a shortened draft of 4, 5, 6 pages and send it to the conference proceeding that this is a shortened draft and you can publish this.
Okay.
Don't allow all 30 pages to be published.
Hmm.
Send a shortened version to the
Right. And one more thing, whether this plagiarism check will be done by the reviewers or by the journal admin.
Usually it will be done by the journals, by the journal.
Journal. Right. Okay.
So all
Sir,
the
and, Sir Javed here. Uh,
yeah. Hi,
Hello.
yeah, go ahead, Javed, yeah.
Sir, my paper is under review and almost 35 days gone. So, how much time I will expect more?
Uh, I would say, Javed, maybe allow a month more.
Okay.
And after 2 months, you can send a polite mail to the journal,
Okay.
uh, 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 the point of contact of that journal, and say that, mention the manuscript ID, title, and say that I had submitted, 2 months have passed. Uh, can you kindly let me know the status of the paper?
Okay, sir. Okay.
Just a simple sentence. Request you to kindly let me know the status of this manuscript. Yeah.
Right, right.
Okay.
Yes.
Sir, this is Radha. I want to know about the JEL classification. Can you throw some light on JEL
Indian
classification?
classifications are followed in economics area, okay,
Okay.
economic and finance area. Honestly, I am not familiar with that classification because I don't submit it to economics journals. Usually, you will not be asked about that JEL classification if you are submitting to OBHR, strategy, these kind
Okay.
of journal. JEL classification is more for economics, finance. Largely, it's more for economics area. Okay, unless you are interested in submitting to an economics area journal, I don't think you need to think of.
Okay.
Our journals don't ask for JEL classification. We follow
O-
APA style or APA or whatever kind of styles that we follow. We don't follow JEL classification.
Okay. So one more question about UGC care list. Being a mass of the like academician, so obviously to publish in a good journal that we all always want. But as a part of CAS and API score, even we also need to take care about this other publications and part.
Right.
So, like, what would you like to say about that? I mean, how can we manage such issues? Is it okay that first we start with UGC care list publication? Does
Yes.
it have any meaning or just
No, see, let me tell everybody, good that you brought it up. Uh, Please take everything that I am saying in this workshop as an advice, as an input. You have to obviously put it in the context of your own college and your own university. Obviously, we have to take care of our own jobs first. So if your college says that you have to publish in UGC list, ABDC is bogus, we don't believe in it, right? Please go ahead and publish in UGC list so that your job is secure. Okay. After that, when you are done with that and you are through with all those restrictions and all those criteria, all those uh, issues, then you can think about publishing in whatever kind of journals you want to. So if your college says publish in UGC list and we don't care about other lists, please publish it in UGC list. But the kind of things that I'm telling you in terms of paper writing, that will be stable, that will be relevant even for UGC listed papers. Okay.
okay, sir? Yeah,
So
right, sir. Thank you, sir.
please take care of your own careers and professions first and see what is needed uh, to do, needed for you to do in those wherever you are, right? Okay, so this is the last thing, and then we'll sort of, so take your reviewer comments seriously. It takes time to absorb effectively, and in parallel to your redraft, that means based on the comments that you have got from the reviewer comments, you will have to revise your manuscript, and you will also have to make a point by point note as to how you have gone about, what are the changes you have done to the manuscript, what are the revisions you have done, what are the changes you have made. So I have shared with you in the Google Drive. This is the reviewer letter that I had got for this Journal of Leadership and Organization Studies paper, the JLOS paper that we have been studying over these 2 days. Okay, so for this paper, this JLOS paper, uh, This is the reviewer comment, and what I have shared is the response. So along with the manuscript that I revised manuscript, you also have to prepare a point by point reply telling the reviewers and telling the editor what is it that you have, what changes have you done to the manuscript. So look at how I respond to the editor. I say, respected Professor Ken Thompson, senior editor, journal, June 30, 2013. So this is when I had submitted the we the authors thank the reviewers for the comments on our manuscript submitted to Journal of Leadership and Organization Studies. We have revised the manuscript and have addressed the concerns of the reviewers. Kindly find below a point-by-point description of the action taken for each of the suggestion of the reviewers. Reviewer 1. There is a lack of literature review about R&D laboratories and their qualification. In addition, there is no clear definition about those organizations. So this is the comment that I had got from the first reviewer. Now the revision. So this is what I have done. We have rewritten the introduction section completely and have provided a description of the R&D project groups, the unique characteristic of R&D professionals, and the necessity for conducting the present study. We request you to please refer to text colored green on pages 2 and 3. Now, some of you were asking, what does this color coding mean? And I told you I will tell you when we come to the reviewer thing. So
Yes,
now
sir.
I am drawing attention of the reviewer to the text colored green on pages 2 and 3. So this is the change that I have made in the manuscript. So I am saying that with respect to your first comment, I have made this change, and the change you can study, which is highlighted in the text colored green on pages 2 and 3. Right? Discussion part can be revised and developed. This is almost expressing the result in another form. So you see, I have been talking to you a lot about don't repeat the results, but this is my early years of writing and I am doing the same thing, and this is the reviewer comment I have got. We have completely rewritten the discussion section, providing a detailed discussion of the findings, their theoretical, practical, and social implications, strengths and limitations of the study, and the directions for future research. We have provided a detailed description of leader behaviors and the importance of these behaviors for the Indian culture and R&D context. We request you to please refer to the discussion sections on pages 22 to 29. So of this manuscript, pages 22 to 29 is where the discussion section exists. And we have written the whole, right? Then the reviewer 2 comes in and I make really what is it that I have done. I request you to refer to the text colored green on 23, 24, 25. Refer to the text colored green on pages 8, 9, 10, 11. Refer to the text colored blue on pages 7 and 8, right? And so on. So this is a point by point reply to every comment that was given to me when this paper came in for revision. And I have, along with the revised manuscript, I have made a reply to the review comments. And I end my letter saying, we once again thank the reviewers for the helpful comments and look forward to hearing from you soon. Remember, look at this, I do not mention my name here because this reply will also be sent out to the reviewers. So if I mention my name, then I will be violating the norm of double blind review. I will be revealing my identity. So I do not, and in this whole manuscript, you will never ever find Vishal Gupta being written anywhere. I do not disclose who the author of this paper is. You have to make a manuscript where your name does not appear in any manner. This is the principle of double blind review. You will never come to know who reviewed your paper, and you should never disclose your identity because this file has to be sent out to the reviewers.
So this reply should be written on a Word doc and sent, I believe. That would be forwarded by or probably
You will
downloaded.
upload, yes, you will on the journal website, you will upload your manuscript, and you will also upload the reply to referee comments.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay, which will both the paper as well as the response letter will be sent to the reviewers. Okay.
So what is your suggestion? Can we write as a single author, or we need to have a collaborative work done?
Well, it's up to you completely. Up to you completely. Usually, having collaborators help, but if you are confident of yourself, it is fine. Absolutely.
Sir,
There's
in
no such recommendation here.
case of single author, can I say we or say I?
I would say always mention we.
Okay. Oh.
You can, in the letter, you can say we, but in your manuscript, so it is, so Devanshu, both is correct. You can also mention I, you can also mention we, doesn't matter.
Okay.
So the higher the risk of resubmission, the greater detail of response. So if it is a major revision, you'll have to work, you will have to give more details of the response. Respond to everything within your powers unless there are compelling theoretical and or methodological counter arguments. So you should try to revise, respond to everything that you can do. If there's something which you cannot do, for example, you cannot change the data, you cannot change the whatever theoretical, you can actually say that I find reviewer may suggest use another theory, but you can say that uh, well, I find this theory to be useful. If it is possible, try to take the reviewer comment seriously and see what you can do to revise the manuscript, right? Remember that which is compelling in your eyes might not be in the eyes of your reviewers.
So, sorry to interrupt. If this particular review response comes that you can use this theory instead of that, then is it okay if we respond in such a way that we have included that in, I mean, we actually go ahead and include that in our manuscript and say that there is an alternate view. This theory can also be used to, view or use as lens for this particular, but I have used this theory because of so and so. So I have actually included that justification in my manuscript and I
Yes.
send it. That is okay, right? That is.
And you have to be make very politely tell the reviewers why you think the theory you used is more appropriate than the theory that he or she is suggesting. And as I said, the reviewers are sensible people; they will not mind. But if you can provide proper justification and arguments, that should be.
Is there any chance that reviewer reject my article and he or she uses my article as his own paper?
No, it is not. No, it is not. Remember, papers are not sent out to just anybody. They are already people who have published well, people who have good standing in good knowledge about those areas. They are not people who are waiting for your manuscript to arrive to publish it in their names. So that doesn't happen.
Okay, okay.
Unless you are submitting to fake journals, some very poor quality, some very unknown kind of journals. So good listed journals. That is why I said please look at this ABDC ranking or the Schimago ranking and try to submit to listed journals only. Okay, that sort of ensures that there is some quality in the journals that you are submitting to. Okay, so the last slide and we'll end for the day. Networking is important. I have talked about it enough. I try to identify conferences where you can submit your work, seek feedback, go present your work, attend those conferences, meet new people, make friends. Professional associations, if you can become a part of some professional bodies where practitioners, professionals, managers interact. Go attend their meetings, CII, FICCI, ASSOCHAM, wherever these practitioners meet. Go attend their lectures, go attend their talks, see what they are talking about, right? Understand what challenges they are facing, and you might get some good ideas for your own work. And you may also make some contacts there which will help you in collecting data for your work. Attend seminars wherever researchers are publishing, presenting their work. Listen to how they went about doing their things, what are the choices they made, and it will sort of help you develop your work also. Collaborations, be on a lookout for possible collaborations, but remember, the collaboration should be equal, it should be symbiotic, it should not be parasitic. That means you should be contributing equally, you should be an honest member, equal member of the team. It should not be that you are sort of banking on one person. I will just demonstrate you this PowerPoint by this one thing, that in this paper that we published, this personal review paper, if you look at, we were two people, Upasna and me, but we declared in the manuscript that both authors contributed equally in the preparation of the manuscript. So when we were to decide, when we had to decide whose name will go first in the manuscript, people whose name is first, they are supposed to be contributing more. But and I told her that I am perfectly okay, you should be the first author, but she insisted that no, we will declare that both the authors have contributed equally in the preparation of the manuscript. Now this is a show of respect to each other. This only shows that the partnership was equal, the contributions were equal, we were not banking, there was no case where somebody was banking on somebody else to get published. We came together, we felt we could exploit our complementary skills, and we made the paper happen. Okay, so that is something that you should aim for. Go to meet people, meet like mind, try to see if you can get some chemistry going, and then contribute, become equal partners in the research journeys. That will make this journey much more enjoyable and fruitful. Okay, so I think I am done for the day, and we are done on time. And I will put these presentations on the shared drive.